this video we are going to talk about how globalization has been changed through the years. And thanks to globalization, the terrorism and the different powers that have been dominated the world as now the digital era. Let's begin by defining the following terms. Globalization is the worldwide movement toward economic, financial, trade, and communications integration, and it multiplies the opening of local and nationalistic perspectives to a broader outlook of an interconnected and interdependent world with free transfer of capital, goods, and services across national frontiers. Terrorism, according to the US Department of Defense, is calculated as the violence or threat of violence to include fear. It intends to intimidate or coerce government of societies to achieve goals that usually involve political, religious, or ideological goals. Unipolar world. There has been three stages of polarity in the world. First, monopolarity from 1815 to 1945. In a system of multipolarity increases rivalry in world politics. Then, a period of bipolarity from 1945 to 1989, where bipolar violence took place, and now unipolarity from 1989 to present day, where the end of the Cold War meant that the previous decade's superpower rivalry and now had ended to the United States surface as the sole dominating power in the world. Digital era, the historical period characterized by the existence of digital technology. Since the invention of TV and telephone, the world is in a constant process of technological advance. Now a timeline of the most important events since the crisis of the socialist bloc until present day, which is now the digital era, and how it relates and with the concepts we saw before. November 9th, 1989, the fall of the Berlin Wall. The Berlin Wall stood until November 9, 1989, when the head of the East German Communist Party announced that citizens of the GDR could cross the border whenever they pleased. This marked the end of the bipolar world and gave entrance to the unipolar world, where one superpower dominates along the United States surface as the sole dominating power in world politics. December 8, 1991, the creation of the Commonwealth of Independent States, CIS. Is a regional organization established by Russia, Belarus, and Ukraine, later joined by Armenia, Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Moldova, Turkmenistan, Tajikistan, and Uzbekistan. Promote the relationship and coordination of its members in trade, finance, lawmaking, security matters, as well as working together on the democratization and cross-border crime prevention. Along with the fall of the Berlin Wall, gave path to the world becoming unipolar, US reigning as were no real challengers to their economic position. Gulf War. The cross missiles strike on Iraq in June 1993 were ordered by the US President Bill Clinton as both a retaliation and a warning trigger by the attempted assassination by Iraqi agents and former US President George, while on a visit to Kuwait on April 14 to 16 on 1993. This is an event thanks to terrorism where the US attempts to intimidate Iraq with a missile strike and violence claiming self-defense. Nelson Mandela president, first black president of South Africa, helped the country's apartheid system of racial segregation and ushered in a peaceful transition to majority rule. Nelson Mandela becoming the first dark-skinned president in Africa was a huge step in globalization era and gave a result many different international perspectives and an advance in human equity. January 1st, 2002, the euro replaces the national currency of Germany, France, Austria, Spain, Portugal, Italy, Belgium, Luxembourg, Netherlands, Finland, Greece, and Ireland. The creation of the euro was made with the aim of improving the economic growth across Europe and more integration among financial markets. The change in the national currency of one more than half Europe is a step in globalization, where the euro became a very important type of currency in all the world and marked a difference in economics and trade. Mars exploration rovers landed. Two Mars rovers, Spirit and Opportunity, were launched to Mars and landed January 2004. This achievement of the humans in space in a huge advance in discovery and in the digital era. With the new information obtained, more discoveries can be made in the next years, making life in other planets maybe possible. Facebook 2004 and Twitter 2006 creation. Co-founder Jack Dorsey originally imagined Twitter as a SMS-based communications platform, while Mark Zuckerberg founded Facebook while studying at Harvard. The network extended beyond Harvard. Facebook is the first social network to surpass 1 billion registered accounts in 2015. Facebook and Twitter, as you know, are now the most popular social media networks in the digital era where we live now. They allow massive communication from all parts of the world and a powerful tool of sharing news. The Syrian Civil War is an ongoing international armed conflict taking place in Syria. The unrest began in the early spring of 2011 within the context of Arab Spring protest. With nationwide protest against President Bashar al-Assad, government whose forces responded with violent crackdowns, this conflict has lasted for more years than we think. There are religious and civil conflicts, which cause more terrorist attacks from the Muslims trying to defend themselves. This war also brings plurality to other nations thanks to immigration, which is a step in globalization and a hidden weapon for an unipolar world. Now, let's answer the questions you may have by now after receiving all this information. Why did globalization emerge? Humanity has had this necessity to connect with others by trading, spreading religious beliefs, and exploring new lands into a process that we now call globalization. The World Bank says that there have been 3 waves of globalization. The first in 1870 and ended with the beginning of World War I in 1914, where the reduction in trade barriers and improvements in transportation technologies resulting in major migration. The next wave was during 1950 and 1980, when various trade agreements were made between developing nations, leaving undeveloped nations out of the map. The last wave of globalization began in 1980, characterized by the willing of developed nations to remove trade barriers in order to attract foreign capital, and it is still going in nowadays. Some say that it began between 1820 and 1870 as economic integration by analyzing 4 centuries of data. In most cases, what caused the terrorist attacks of 20th century? All terrorists are motivated by 2 major causes: social and political injustice, and the belief that the violence its threat will be effective and usher in change. These 2 major motivations, plus the condition like poor quality life, a colonized society, diseases, and inequity, which are favorable to terrorism, make the world to be in a constant conflict. How does the end of the Cold War relate with the unipolar world? Before the world became unipolar like it is nowadays, it used to be in a bipolar balance of power and a superpower rivalry between the East and the West, where fear and suspicion characterized the relationship between the 2 major powers, and confrontation was commonplace. The end of the Cold War meant that the previous decade's superpower rivalry now had ended. There was no longer the traditional East versus West conflict, at least now not the way it had been earlier in the 20th century. The United States surfaced as the sole dominating power. How has the digital era influenced today's society? The digital era has a positive as well as a negative aspect. In some way, this era brings us a lot of benefits, facilities, and comfort. We have all information in our cell phones, laptops, and tablets, and we have them with us in every moment of our daily life. In other way, technology brings with it lazy people who prefer being with their head stuck in the internet and not living the real life. Kids nowadays have things easier than last generations did, thanks to the mass media and the internet. But this make people to use less their brains. Well, now you know there has been many changes in this world by decades past, and it's in our hands to decide the destiny of this world that is dying little by little. This is the end of the video. Hope you liked it and learned something new from it. Thank you.